Today in this video, we're going to be breaking down a 17 Cinderbrew Meadery run that my group and I were able to get done yesterday on stream. If you happen to miss that, you can check out my link in the description below to check out the VOD or to watch me do these keys live. Normally, I'm just raging about how bad Brewmaster is, but I'm going to break down everything that we did right, wrong, and everything in between and just really nerd out about the run, so I hope you guys enjoy. Now, regarding talents, those are going to be located down below. Nothing crazy, but you can find that information down there. Anyway, starting off the run, it's going to be pretty standard. You're going to be doing a fairly large pull. Now, Brewmaster can't live double muscle. I know a lot of groups try to do double muscle, but we're going to be doing essentially the whole right side of the room. It's about 3 packs or so, and we're going to be committing most of our CDs. So we're going to start with the Ringing Ritual Mud into a Dampen Harm. Following that, we will be committing a Celestial Brew, and then at this point, we now have Combustible Bomb Suit back up, off because it has a shared GCD with Ringing Ritual Mud. We're going to commit actually a Black Ox Brew first to get a reset, and then we're going to be using Celestial Brew again, and then we're going to go Ringing Ritual Mud. Now at this point, the pull ideally will die. Link gets committed. This is more of it's a tank and a group cooldown at this point because it lines up with the second volatile keg cast, and then we're going to be chaining our Fortifying Brew next. So I have just committed pretty much all of my resources to stay alive in this pull. This is why we don't do double muscle. Now, unfortunately, the way that I chained that pull there, I tagged the muscle. The patrons came late. I threw a keg at the muscle. It missed the patrons, and our feral druid decided to start hitting the mobs, which is totally fair. I should have had threat, so he died there, unfortunately. So that is our first death of the key. Now, this is a pull that we're going to kind of call a cooldown recovery. This gives me time to kind of get my bearings together. When you're tanking just a handful of mobs like this as a Brewmaster, you're generally going to be very, very, very safe. There's only a few pulls in this entire season that I would say, like, if you're tanking 4 mobs to be scared of. Generally, Celestial Brew is enough to carry here. Now, we want to make sure that we're not letting the patrons run too far, but now that the muscle is low, or I guess now at this point dead, we are just going to pull Chewy in. Now, Chewy is a fairly easy, I guess, like easy mob to deal with. The only thing you're keeping an eye out for is this Tenderize cast, which is a pretty big knockback, but he will be extremely deadly if you ever pull a muscle with him. Chewy has an aura that makes all mobs near him do 15% more damage. Now this is much better than what he used to do, which also made them immune to CC back in the day. Now you can at least kick and crowd control mobs, so it's not as big of a deal. But you can see there we're still getting kind of low from some of the other things that are going on in this pack, because we have a Pyromaniac who's putting out a dot and channeling boiling flames into players. So as long as we're getting kicks and getting quick dispels and keeping everyone healthy, each of these tenderizes shouldn't be too difficult for us to manage. Now I'm going to be using this next tenderize to get knocked back to a point where I can pull this patron group here. Now I'm trying to be a little bit careful, because if you tag them in a wrong way, you'll end up pulling more, possibly a muscle. And again, like I just said, if you pull a muscle, you're probably going to wipe. Now, Chewy is around 30%. We do now have one more Pyromaniac in this pull, but the rest are just patrons. Patrons, they do a little bit of tank damage. They apply a nasty bleed, or have a chance to, but they apply it much less frequently to Brewmasters due to Elusive Brawler, and of course, we are a dodge-based tank. Obviously, getting hit by any of these high stakes can be problematic, so we're doing our best not to. I don't think anyone ever does. And then at this point, Chewy is low enough where I start chaining. I do tag one of the muscles, but Chewy's going to die to Touch of Death here, which drops all my stagger and allows me to basically pull the rest of the encounter, or the rest of the room. Now, I don't know what happened there. I thought our Feral Druid ripped threat, but looking back at this, I think he got targeted by Throw Chair, possibly, or he got hit by a swirl. But now that is 2 deaths in the dungeon. I'm not going to lie, at this point, after we saw 2 deaths in the first room, I was like, this might be a rough run. We're probably not going to time this. But we ended up having, well, it was timed, or I wouldn't be making this video. So we did actually pretty well in here. I'm pretty proud of my team. We actually ended up having 5 deaths, so it's gonna add up. This is me just checking the durability of my weapon, because I see that it's broken. I thought I repaired beforehand. I'm going to be asking for a repair bot later on. But now we're going into boss. I was considering chaining there, but I'd rather let both of our stealth DPS get stealth, so their opener can be a little bit better. We do tag in 2 patrons. This just happened because of Keg Smash, Cleave, and like the AoE Rake from our Feral Druid. Now this boss is really easy for a Brewmaster specifically. His Tank Buster, Stagger's going to carry. You're never really going to need to use a defensive here. You can if you want to. You can use Fortifying Brew to get a little bit more damage from things like special delivery, but for the most part, you're going to get knocked back. And then it's really on your group and on your healer to, well, stay alive, keep the group alive. The big thing that Warrior, or specifically the healer's looking out for, are these throw Cinderbrews. They target 2 players, they cannot be dispelled, and they need to be healed through. So if you get targeted by them, you need to use a defensive. Now, unfortunately, in this run specifically, it kept targeting our warrior over and over and over again, and that's really bad RNG. Now, oddly enough, we think that it can be dodged, and so whenever it targets a rogue, there's a really high chance for them to dodge it, which is obviously really, really, really good. So in a perfect world, it targets your rogue more than anything else. The Druid is fine because they always have Bear Form they can go into with Frenzied Regen, and then they also have good defensives like Barkskin, Renewal, and Survival Instincts. Here comes another knockback. And so the way that we're positioning in this room is we want to pull the mob, or the boss, basically to this corner, and we play along the right side of the room. And the first time you do it, it's fine, you have no tornadoes. The second time you do it, you'll have poop on the ground from the throw Cinderbrews previously and the keg smash, but these pools clear up pretty quickly. You can see that they're kind of clearing here. We moved a little bit faster this time because of the tornadoes positioning, I guess. But it's okay to clutter this side of the room, mostly because the tank is going to be doing this side. And that's pretty much it. So the idea is that you want to push at 66 and 33, but you want to be able to hit that kind of benchmark before he does the next throw Cinderbrew. So right here, we're trying to push before the next Cinderbrew in 6 seconds. 33% just happens now, so we're phasing. And this is the best time to phase. The worst time to phase is when he just does the cast and then he starts running away, because obviously DPS kind of want to follow to make sure they're doing damage, but our healer is trying to keep people healthy. So you want to try to beat that throw Cinderbrew cast if you can. You don't really want to hold damage though either, so it's kind of like pick your poison. It's like, well, you can hold damage to make sure your healer can keep you all healthy, but you also want to phase the boss to get, 'cause we're up against a timer, so we definitely want to kill the boss as quick as possible. So here we go. Now that we're in the kind of final phase of the fight, which is just a repeat of phase 2, which is a repeat of phase 1, we are now moving towards IPA's hallway instead. So we're in a better, closer position to move into the next hallway. So that's kind of the idea here. Now, unfortunately, he has a pretty big health pool, so he's not going to die where we want him to. He's going to die. We're going to loop around a little bit. So we're not going to be like right up against this door. This position would be ideal if the boss died here. He's still at 7%, so we're going to have to play around these tornadoes just a little bit. We do want to be near this side, though. And I am holding Weapons of Order and everything like that for the next room. I'm going to try to get Touch of Death here, which I do. This is going to give me a 5% damage increase for this next pull, which is going to be really, really nice. Now, this pull is extremely scary, so ideally you have healer cooldowns. Now, we have none, so a lot of this is going to be on me to make sure that I'm able to stay alive, so I'm committing my bomb suit first. Then it should be a Celestial Brew followed by Dampen Harm at some point in the near future. And then we are each assigned to a kick. Now, I'm assigned to X generally in this dungeon. And then we have someone watching diamond, someone watching green, someone watching orange. And then we're going to use AoE stops if we don't have kicks available. So as you can see in our kick tracker, everyone's landing a kick on a different spell. It's either like heals, it's some of the group damage, it's some of the Boiling Flame casts. Anything you can stop in this pull is going to be good. It just depends on what you value. So some of it's like more prio damage on a DPS, which can be scary. Some is random, like from the free samples, like random casts. Some of it is a heal. And so you want to try to figure out what your group needs to prioritize here. So I ended up holding Dampen, which is really good. And now what we're doing since that pull went down is I'm trying to get ahead here. I'm going to be using Paralysis on the patrol to make sure it stays in that position. And then we're going to make sure we have aggro. And at the same time, I'm dropping Ring of Peace to knock the patrol lead into the wall. And now the main reason I'm doing this is you're going to see in a couple seconds, or like 40 seconds or so, that this is going to allow us to skip this next pack without having to use Stealth or Shroud or anything like that. This is a really good strategy that Brewmaster monks can implement, or I guess really any monk can. It's easier. I think the easiest one to do is probably Windwalker. But anyways, highly recommend doing this. And the big thing we're looking out for is just making sure explosive barrels go down and we'll be chilling. So now what we're doing here is I'm going to get another paralysis. I'm going to knock him once more while this pack is still alive. And now, as you can see, the hobgoblins are like right up against the wall with that scientist because they follow wherever the scientist is. So if you're able to displace them like that, you're able to obviously like keep them in a good position. So now we're going into this pull. This is going to be a lust pull once it comes up. Kind of same strategy here. We're all kind of assigned a kick. We're all just watching out for it. Now, unfortunately, this is where shit kind of hits the fan. So we accidentally body pulled this hobgoblin because someone was too close. I think it might have been killing spree. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But basically, we shouldn't have pulled this pack. This is a lot. Luckily, we have some cooldowns running. We also have, we'll have Lust coming up. So we send Lust. Lust is going to help our DPS obviously get this pull down a little bit faster. It's going to allow me to... Haste isn't great for Brewmaster, but it allows me to have a slightly faster cadence of spells, more keg smashes, meaning more cooldown recovery. So this might help me out a little bit. And obviously, it's going to help our healer as well. I'm going to be dispatching a Ring of Peace there to keep mobs off of me, to keep their auto attacks off, to lighten the damage a little bit. My stagger is sitting very, very high without any purification brews. Link gets committed very late, but I step in last seconds, and we're good. So this pull does go down. We're very fortunate, because if this pull went on any longer, probably another 10 seconds, I would have for sure perished. That was very effective for us. So now at this point, we're basically like, okay, let me recover a little bit. I do have Dampen. I do have Ring Ritual Mud. Our idea here... Oh, also, my gear's broken, so I'm trying to repair, and I can't, because I don't know what add-on I have, but something I have in my add-on profile is not letting me open up repair bots during combat, which is really frustrating. But we're going to be trying to pull these scientists first. Once this hobgoblin dies, I'm going to pull in the next hobgoblin as well. You basically want to get these guys in as early as possible because you don't want them to be up when you're about to pull boss. So right there, our rogue dies. He unfortunately got targeted by a bunch of things at the same time. It was a combination of like multiple spill drinks or throw drinks or whatever it is with something. I forgot something else. I think he got a tick from the pool on the ground from the droplets. But basically, we're going to try to get res here, and then once we get res, we're going to bring in the hobgoblin. Now, I guess to back up a little bit, the reason why we want to pull in this hobgoblin a little bit earlier is because they have like near 400 million health, which is a lot of health. And once they die, they spawn 6 mobs that don't count towards percent, but you want to kill because you need the floor space for boss. So the idea is get this hobgoblin in nice and early, and then just always be cleaving off of it. And then kind of pull in every other pack on top of the hobgoblin as you're clearing this. And so we're looking pretty good here. Unfortunately, our warrior's ripping threat. Our rogue dying means he lost a ton of damage. For those who don't know, rogues have to kind of maintain buffs. They're being in combat and restarts and stuff. And basically, once a rogue dies, they lose all of that. So they lose all that momentum. So his damage for the next couple minutes is going to be like a little bit lower than it should be. And when I say a little bit, I mean a lot of it. So we send this hobgoblin into this wall, and then we're going to chain into the final pack that we're doing in this area, and we're going to finish off this last batch. Now, batches I didn't really talk about much. They spawn a lot here. They spawn from the scientists. So ideally, you don't ever really want to pull more than like 2 scientists at a time, because groups, depending on your composition, have a hard time swapping to these batches. Lucky for us, we have a full melee comp that's really good at it. We also have Touch of Death, so that's also pretty helpful. Hobgoblin goes down when all the other mobs are at like 40%, 50% health. So we're looking really good. That means these drops are going to die at a nice kind of time where I'm going to be able to get a repair and then go into boss right away. Now we did a 16, actually the day before this, and we accidentally killed the hobgoblin like at the very, very end. And then we had to kind of sit around waiting to kill the droplets, which were not fun. But luckily they died here, which is good. I'm going to get a quick repair and we're going to go into boss. Now, this boss is going to look pretty scary the way that we do it because we really try to milk boss damage. And so by doing that, we have to keep the adds really, really, really close. So we're kind of playing with, we're kind of playing with death because if one ad hits the boss, it'll probably be a group wipe. And even if not, he'll have a massive absorb shield. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to roll out, taunt the boss away, pull him kind of around skull. Our shaman's going to knock the other ad in, and then I'm going to drop Ring of Peace, and we're going to keep the boss right here. And what this allows is it allows our DPS to continue hitting boss while cleaving the ad so we don't lose boss damage. So now we're pulling the boss away. And so we're at roughly 77%, which is good. 25% to 30% per ad phase is really, really good. Basically, you want to do 3 ad sets and then you tunnel, or 2 ad sets and then you tunnel, depending on your damage. So right now, boss is at 67 when he starts his next spouting stout, so we're looking really good. And this is no lust, by the way. We've done this boss with lust, and we generally get him to around 60% or 55%. And so now it's kind of same thing here. We're kind of going to slowly group up the ads by pulling the boss around the bigger clump. Once they get nice and close, I'm going to drop a ring and then pull the boss even closer so we can just cleave here. I'm going to get an exploding keg on them. And then we're going to, just keep cleaving them down. And now the final 2, I'm going to pull a little bit out of this pool. And so the other 2 can walk in and get clipped. I also have Touch of Death, which is really good. I'm going to touch the one that's in the pool at the same time the other one dies. 5 seconds before is roughly where you want to aim for so they don't spawn like in a cringe way. But the Touch of Death is super nice for me because now I'm getting more boss damage from it. And if the boss for some reason lives for another minute and a half, I can just touch the boss, but I don't think we're going to actually need that there. So getting an early Touch of Death is really, really nice. You can try to get one on the first ad set, just I wasn't able to, so. Last thing to note is there can only ever be 6 brew droplets active at a time. So you want to try to kill them very clumped up, and then 3 of the first set will despawn when the third set spawns. Or I guess I think that's how it works. Or I don't know if it's the ones that are most recently dead, but basically keep them grouped up, and you should be good. And so one thing that we generally run in here, which we weren't in this run in particular, is we normally run Earth Grab Totem, and Earth Grab Totem is really broken because what it allows us to do is keep the mobs grouped in a very specific spot for a long period of time. But now that we're sub 20%, we're going to tunnel. So all we're going to do is we're going to pull this boss away. And so keep in mind, we've only killed 3 ad sets. We are now just tunneling, so we're going to start moving towards the edge of the room. We're kind of titillating that close droplet, making sure he's just out of range, so he's just blue-balled. And we're going to AoE blind, even if it breaks, which I think we already sent blind. No, we didn't yet. We're just gonna tunnel. We always have Ring of Peace if they get enraged. We have blind. We have other ways to kind of prevent them from getting in, like Lake Sweep, Shockwave, Ursols, good stuff. All right, so now we're heading to the next hallway at 1738. This hallway can be very explosive, so you want to be careful. So I'm going in with Dampen. I'm going to always be watching the Purveyor in most of these pulls, and our Rogue generally watches a Wrangler. As soon as there's a second Wrangler, it's our Feral Druid who's watching them, and as soon as we add a second Purveyor, it's our Warrior who's watching them. That's kind of our general rule of thumb. How accurate are we? We're never accurate. We play like idiots, but we're good. So yeah, this pull's going to start off with like a Dampen Harm, and then it goes into, I went into Bomb Suit there. I obviously have a big Celestial Brew saved up. Now you do want to kind of budget your defensives because you want enough defensives to be able to do this pull again, because the next pull is identical to this one. So if you commit all of your defensives on one pull, you're going to be really dry on the next. I do have Ringing Ritual Mud as well. Unfortunately, I'm kind of dry here at this point. I don't have Fort. I have a Celestial Brew coming up, kind of. I have Bomb Suit in 45. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these little beelets first, just get threat on them. And then once the Harvester dies, I'm going to pull in the next Harvester. And as you can see, we're taking a ton of damage here right off the rip, so I'm going to commit a Ringing Ritual Mud. And then I'm watching the Purveyor, Rogue is on the Wrangler, and that's it. The scariest part about this pull is actually the bees. The bees do a lot of tank damage, but they also do their shredded stings, which target random group members and apply a bleed. And that bleed, if it stacks up very high, can be lethal at anything more than like 3 stacks. So playing something like Dwarf is really good, obviously. But generally speaking, you're just like praying that it doesn't target the same player over and over again. And then the final stings are like a killing blow coup de grace on the tank that attempt to, finish off the tank. All right, so we lived this pull somehow. A lot of healing from our healer probably. And now we're going to start chaining. I do have a lot of my defenses rolling back up, so I can kind of pull big again without being too scared. I have Combustible Bomb Suit. I have Dampen coming up in 10 seconds. I have a Celestial Brew that I just sent there. And that's it. I don't really have that many defenses now that I think about it. So now that I have this pulled, I'm going to come in here, port back to CL, who is my Transcendence Link target. And once all the mobs come in, we're going to be landing a big old exploding keg to get all our threat and to make sure that we're able to dodge for a couple of seconds. People often forget that explosive keg is also a very powerful defensive. For 3 seconds, mobs cannot hit you. Unfortunately, our Feral Druid got targeted by a ton of different bleeds, and he went down there right before the Link, and we wanted Link for the next pull. So it's unfortunate that not only we had a death, but we sent Link late, which meant that we lost it. So unfortunate, but we'll recover. Yeah, like I said, the bees can be very, very, very scary. And that's why we're having our rogue CL always sit on these Wranglers, because these Wranglers can do, if they get their Bestial Wrath off, you're probably going to wipe. That Enrage is near lethal. Now that everyone's back, we're kind of recovered. These bees are about to die. We're going to be heading into the next pool. Now, this is a perfect positioning when the Wranglers are nice and close to each other. Again, I'm going to be watching this X Purveyor. I believe our warrior is on purple, and then our feral and our rogue are watching the Wranglers, and they're assigned to each of the separate markers, and all they're doing is they're kicking the Bestial Wrath. I think it's a 1 melee kick rotation to nuke it. So we're kind of vibing. Did an Enrage go off there? Oh, maybe it did. Maybe we missed it. Yeah, possibly. Anyways, this pull is actually one of the easier pulls. You obviously have the bazookas, but you don't have a lot of bees, so there's not a lot of bleeds out. So as long as bazookas don't target like the same player, or someone who did happen to get a bleed, you're going to be pretty safe. Now, the honey volley is often undervalued, but a honey volley going off means you're probably not going to be able to dodge swirls or dodge the giant beeswax circle, so you have to be very, very, very careful. Now, coming down to this area, we're looking pretty good. We do have a Harvester that's going to be coming in a little bit late. As long as we can kill him before his next surprise, we should be good, which I think is going to be here soon. So he dies before the beeswax goes off. And now I'm going to sweep on this. Whenever I run out, I like to sweep to make sure all the mobs are in the position and make sure we don't miss any kicks or any kind of weird shit happens. The beelets are coming in. I'm going to get threat pretty quickly with a keg smash. Ironically enough, it's probably not even the keg smash that got me threat. It's probably like our rogue's damage or something. And what we could do here is we're sitting and we're looking at like a 20, we're about 23 minutes into the key, or 22 and a half, and we have 10 minutes left. So we could pull onto boss, but we're feeling pretty safe with our time. We think that this boss is give or take 3 minutes, and we only need 4 minutes for the last boss, so we have 3 minutes to basically, of like downtime. Is our like rough estimate. I don't know how accurate that actually is. For any eagle-eyed players or viewers, you can see that we did lust the last pull actually. We like to lust on cooldown in here, that's kind of the idea. The last lust is probably the least effective lust, but we'd rather get 4 lusts in this dungeon than 3, is kind of our idea. Because there's not really like perfect lust pulls that are like far apart from each other. It's more like there's like a lot of really good lust pulls, but nothing that's like, oh, we have to have lust here, or lust just make the trivializes this. So that's kind of our idea here. So this fight can be pretty obnoxious. There's a lot going on for a tank, but there's also a lot going on for everyone else, so I, can't really complain. Now, the idea here is you want to bring these marinades out. Now, I have this nice little weak ore that I made. It's a progression bar that just tracks the spell ID of marinade and the debuff on myself, so when it hits that little white line, that's when I need to roll out. And what's nice about the Brewmaster is when you're playing lighter than air, you can also dash afterwards, so you can roll out and then dash back in, and you almost lose little to no uptime, and you can spend a good bit of time trying to get threat. Now, other tanks, what sucks about this fight is that you're like getting threat, but you're also trying to put yourself in a position where you're not going to like grief your group or have bees in that marinade, because when they're in the marinade, they're like enraged and they can't die, which is pretty brutal. The idea for me here is I generally like to drop it outside of the healing rain. That's kind of our rule of thumb, or my rule of thumb mentally, is like if I see healing rain down, keep it outside of the healing rain. The bees, doing the bees and breaking the barrels is generally a healer job. He normally does a really good job at it, but if he is struggling from whether it's like the spell queuing of the boss, of Fluttering Wing and stuff like that, he's going to call for help. And at that point, our DPS are pretty much instructed to get on a bee and destroy a barrel. It's pretty simple. I do think it's a healer's job. I don't think like a tank can really do it. I think it'd be silly to have DPS do it, because then the boss is going to take longer. Therefore, you're going to have to do more barrel sets. The damage instances in this fight are pretty chill, I would say. Like if you watch our health pools, we're generally really, really healthy until like the bees come out. And so like when bees are coming out, now it's like, okay, we have, well, there's only one active now, but it's like, okay, there's 3 bees, they're all going to apply a bleed, and we have the Fluttering Wing. But as soon as the bees die and the Fluttering Wing is over, now there's like a little bit of downtime to get on a bee and fire the barrel. Now the tank, obviously you need to be a little careful, especially once you pull in these beelets, if you ever do that. These beelets apply a pretty nasty dot to the tank that needs to be dispelled. So I diffused when I was around 4 stacks just to give my healer like a slight break, but now I'm at 6 stacks. because he's currently doing bees, so I do need to watch my health here if I need to. Now, what's nice about this dot, though, is it's giving us cooldown reduction on our trinket. So my healer's opting not to dispel it, which is kind of nice, because I'm getting cooldown reduction. So now I have another defensive up about 20 seconds faster than I normally would have had it, which is really, really nice. But yeah, as you can see, I kind of just like drop it up against the edge outside of the healing grain as far as I can. I'm also transcending to CL, our rogue. And what's nice about doing this is I can kind of like, if I ever need to get back a little bit faster or travel a further distance, or if it's happening during a fluttering wing, I can simply just transcend to CL instead of having to like try to dash against the wind. The boss being sub 10%, we're now pretty much going to just tunnel. What we can do at this point is when bees do spawn, you can CC them. Another reason why we used to run Earthgrab Totem in here is because you could CC the ads far away, especially if the boss, or I guess the tank was taking the boss's tank buster out. But you can just simply, like, I paralysis one here. I'm going to move the boss away. And then we're going to just basically sit in this corner. So like, you can CC them. So like I said, Earthgrab Totem, AoE blind, as long as you don't have like a ton of like random AoE damage going out from your group, you can keep things CC'd, which is super, super nice. All right, and now last but not least, we're heading upstairs with 6 minutes and like 15 seconds. I mean, it'll be like 6 minutes basically once we land and we get everything pulled up. Now, we like to implement a strategy where we try to kill multiple of these guys at the same time. For some reason, Earth Elemental pulled, which is very good because our Shaman's running Eye of Kazan, and staying in combat is really good because you can maintain really high stacks. So it just kind of solidified the fact that our healer's going to have enough damage and throughput for this next fight, which is awesome. Big fan. Big fan of Kazan. Okay, so anyways, the strategy that we're trying to do here is we're going to try to clip them down all really, really evenly without slowing damage too much. Like, obviously, we're going to slow damage a little bit, but we also don't want to fully stop damage unless we can totally guarantee it. Now, unfortunately, I don't think we successfully land a double kill here. In our 16, we landed a triple kill, and I'm going to have a YouTube short about it in a little bit, which will be fun. The first one we do, we unfortunately don't. And I think we end up killing Skull here. I can't remember. I've run so many Cinderbrews lately that I can't remember if we did a double kill or not. I thought we did, but maybe I'm crazy. Okay, anyways, you can kill two at the same time, but you need it to be a very precise global that hits for very, very hard. Now, Warrior is very good at this because they have things like high stacked cleaves or demolish. Rogues or like certain tanks can also run like damage trinkets to do a burst of damage here. We're going to try to kill these at the same time as well, and we don't. But what is nice is Mortal Strike and Mortal Wounds. Rogue and Warrior both have this. The Warrior one is a little bit stronger. It's a 50% healing reduction. And the Rogue, it's like 39% or something really weird. But the way that it works, and I think that a lot of people are confused about this, the mobs heal for 100% of their max health. They don't like reset their health pool. And so what that does is if this mob has 100 million health, it's going to heal for 100 million regardless of what percent it's at. So when people are like, oh, Mortal Wounds doesn't work because it's at 50% health, well, it's healing then for 50% of its health. So if it's at 50, it's going back to 100. So the way that Mortal Wounds is really good is if you cleave them down really like evenly, because then if they're all at 5%, they're only getting healed to 55%. So Warrior can be really strong in here. You can kill multiple of them at the same time. I have a short about it. Maybe I'll leave it linked in the description below. It's just a video of us killing 3 of them in one blow. It's very cool. Now, I like to clear this room going left, back, right. So what that means is like the blue world marker, then I clear purple world marker, then I clear green. And then our DPS just tunnel. They don't run out. Losing melee uptime is really bad. So if you're a tank and you see a melee DPS kind of not running out and destroying a little barrel or a big barrel, don't get upset at them because they're losing uptime, which means the boss is just going to take that much longer. In an ideal world, the tank just has to break all the barrels and you're absolutely fucking chilling. If a range wants to break a small barrel, that's fine, but what we like about having the tank break barrels only is that we know that the wave patterns are going to be relatively consistent. Because that means we only have waves after the tank frontal, that's it. when you do this like burning ricochet and you break a barrel, waves are going to come out before the tank buster and after, which can create some complications. It creates downtime, a lot of negative reasons to basically if you break barrels outside of just the frontal from the tank. So that was the second set of barrels, I guess. We're going to probably do one more. And once the boss is like sub 30, sub 25%, we generally call for tunnel. And what's nice about tunneling is that when we do tunnel, even if we somehow see a phase, the barrels don't blow up until like the phase is basically over. So there's not really a big overlap of damage. And we have something very powerful called Spirit Link. Spirit Link is broken. It'll keep us all alive. We've done some testing in 16s as well, and our shaman has been able to keep us alive without Link through a 4-stack, which is just kind of funny. Shaman is very good for this fight. I think all healers are actually good at this fight if they can ramp properly, but anyways, we are, yeah, there's not much else to talk about. This fight is not a scary fight for tank. This is kind of like just a nice deep breath. Unfortunately, we have one last death here to that last wave. Which is unfortunate because I think we just... Did we just lust? Yeah, we just lusted. So he died during lust, which is very unfortunate. But this is the reason why we like 4 lusts. Is because the lust comes up at the very end and it comes up during or near where you're going to tunnel at. So you can lust and then everyone can plant and just do damage, which is super nice. And that's it, yeah. So this fight's very chill for a tank. Like, these tank busters I'm not having to use a defensive on. I don't know what it's like for other tanks. My Prout Warrior is normally in the same boat where I'm not really using... Maybe I'll use Shield Wall, but I'm generally using that for Avatar anyways, but... And we are sub 5% with 30 seconds to go. So this is pretty much a locked-in key. Now, unfortunately, we had, obviously, a lot of deaths. Some of those deaths were fairly costly. Some of them were not so much, but 5 deaths does mean we were down an extra minute or so on the board. So I don't think 18 is in grasp yet for our group. I think we'd have to figure out a way to get a couple bigger pulls, a couple more damage. So maybe with a little bit more itemable. But yeah, we blasted. Anyways, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned something. If you have any questions, leave it down below. And obviously a big shout out to all my Patreon supporters, because without you guys, I couldn't make content like this. I hope you're all staying happy, healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.